Alright you guys, ZFR back here, and in this video I want to talk to you guys about how I think the pacing of Season 1 of The Witcher Netflix might have had a massive negative effect on the quality of the first season. So, if you've been watching my channel, you know we've covered Witcher Netflix for the past year leading up to its launch. It launched last week, and overall I end up giving the show a pretty positive review because I enjoyed it vastly. But then again, that is probably only because I went into it already knowing that I was probably going to need to separate this show from all the other source material if I wanted to enjoy it to the maximum viewing potential. So with that being said, there were a lot of people that loved the show, and there's a lot of people, especially some of the more hardcore book fans, who just are like no. Like no. I'm seeing some of the more hardcore Witcher YouTubers really go in on the show and just completely like demolish it. Well, they're not demolishing it. They're giving it its props for being high quality and good and stuff. But overall, there's a lot of more hardcore Witcher lore nuts who are just dissatisfied. And to be honest, I can't blame them. As a matter of fact, I noticed during my watch of the show the same things that they noticed, because as you all probably know, I've said it a few times on the channel, I have taken the time to read through the first couple of books. So with that being said, after watching the show, even though I enjoyed it a lot, I still couldn't help but notice that the show in almost every aspect is kind of inferior to the books. And pretty much I'm going to get into the reasons why here. But the main overall reason is the pacing. So with that being said, what's so bad about The Witcher Netflix Season 1's pacing? Now, overall, the pacing wasn't too horrible on its own. I mean, it definitely had problems here and there. But for the most part, if you don't know anything about what goes on in the books, then you probably weren't too bothered by it, except for certain points. But overall, if you read the books, I don't see how you could possibly view the show as the superior version. I mean, like, they just, and that's not because the show has bad quality. As a matter of fact, the show's quality is really good, but compared to the books, there's almost less of everything, and that is where a lot of Witcher hardcore fans just did not enjoy it. So what do I say why I mean this? For example, let's use episode 1 of The Witcher Netflix for example. Now, episode 1, super high quality, really enjoyable episode overall. However, there were massive problems with it when you compare it to its book counterpart, or the book counterparts of the stories told in that episode. Basically, the stories told here are the Butcher of Blaviken storyline and the Fall of Sintra storyline. Two of the most important events in the Witcher books, and probably in the world of The Witcher, mind you. So it was very disappointing to see that the events of this episode were very much rushed. This is why I said that this season could have benefited a lot from having 1 or 2 more episodes, because this episode alone probably should have been split into 2. The Fall of Sintra probably was big enough to warrant its own episode, along with the Butcher of Blaviken story getting its own as well. And this really shows, since stuff in the episode just isn't explained all that well. Like, for instance, Renfri's plan at the market and the Curse of the Black Sun. Like, I saw a lot of people who didn't understand the Curse of the Black Sun by the time the episode was over. You know, there were a lot of people that were thinking it was an actual mutation and stuff, when in reality the Curse of the Black Sun in the Witcher universe is more likely to be some myth that causes people to treat children very poorly that ends up creating monsters out of those children instead of those children actually being monsters. The show kind of almost explained it to the point where it was very easy to mistake it for some actual mutation, which it just, for as far as we know, just probably isn't. That's what The Witcher kind of implies in both the books and in the games. So that was disappointing to see that they did such a poor job explaining that. Also, another thing that I thought the show really messed up on in the first episode was Renfrey's plan at the market just never gets explained, and it was just like, yo, what's going on? And I didn't even realize this at first. I didn't notice until I went back and watched the episode for the second time. And this is what I'm saying. I already read the book, so it's a lot of this is really easy for me to understand right off the bat, at least most of it. So with that being said, I already knew why Geralt had to go to the market to fight Renfrey and all her men. I already understood his motives, but people who didn't read the books won't understand at all. They'll think he just went there and slaughtered them, which isn't the case. Her and her men were going to slaughter everybody in the town until Stregobor came out of his tower, which he wouldn't have done because he's a horrible person. So Geralt went there to fight them to protect all the townspeople, which the fact that you don't know that just kind of strips away a very important layer about a character who, you know, kind of seems like he might be kind of cold and distant and to himself, but actually really cares about a lot of the people around him and just generally is a good person. So in my opinion, that was just a really big loss on their part. However, this does continue a lot throughout the season. Just scenes like that should have been bigger or seem more important or more what's the word I'm looking for, broad and magnificent. Like, they just weren't, some of these scenes on the show. Like for instance, the Golden Dragon scene where we finally got to see that. It wasn't like in the books where he was running around challenging people to duels and stuff. You know, they skimmed over a lot of that. And I guess you can chop that up to them saving money on the CGI and the props by having him on screen as little as possible. But still, it would have been cool to see. You know, there's a bunch of scenes like that. The Striga fight seemed a lot shorter than it did in the books, and maybe even slightly less strategic. You know, it just didn't feel like there was as much of a back and forth as the books had with it. Also, just like a bunch of stuff continuing on through the season. Even Geralt not being there at Brokilon with Ciri, that was disappointing as heck. I couldn't believe they skipped that part of the story. That could have been one entire episode by itself. Just this Geralt meeting Ciri for the first time in Brokilon, and from that one episode, that could have produced at least one other episode. So because they pushed the story forward so fast that it almost feels like they skipped a lot of important stuff, and that they just rushed ahead straight to the end, to where the second book ends. Like, keep that in mind, people. Like, we just, like, this one season, these 8 episodes go through, pretty much cover multiple chapters of the book. They skip multiple storylines from the book. And yeah, there's just an overall sense of less character development and stuff that spans from that. Like, for instance, at the end of the season, when Geralt and Ciri meet for the first time, or when Geralt and Ciri finally find each other after the fall of Sintra, I'm not going to lie, it was vastly more underwhelming than it was in the books. I know some people said they liked it and it hit well for them, but if you read the books, nah, like, there was so much more emotional attachment between those two characters already through their father-daughter relationship in the books that wasn't even formed beforehand on the show. They just skipped straight ahead to them meeting after the fall of Sintra, and they even take time to, kind of form the most important bond in this franchise. So with that being said, stuff like that just was really disappointing to a lot of hardcore Witcher fans. I don't think anybody was expecting to see, them take that route with developing some of these scenes and character relationships, and just overall the structure of this season 1 and episodes. I personally think that they should have just stuck to what the books did, told a bunch of short stories through Geralt's point of view, introduced us to Yennefer and Ciri that way, maybe give us some of Yennefer's backstory along the way. I thought the stuff with Yennefer, for the most part, they could have kept most of it. For the most part, there were a few parts here and there was like, I could have done without, but I also really like the actress playing Yennefer, so I didn't mind her all too much at all. And even with Ciri, I thought a lot of her stuff was good. I just don't really like, I don't like what they sacrificed by pushing Ciri's story so quickly in the first season. Like, I think Ciri should have been a character that got explored a lot more in the second season, and maybe should have been introduced in the Brokilon story arc when she first meets Geralt around the end of this season. I thought that would have been a better way to go about it. That way we would have gotten to see a ton more monsters this season. We could have had maybe even a more extended look at the fall of Sintra at the beginning of next season, and they could have just they could have split it up better. You know what I'm saying? They could have paced it better. They wouldn't have had to rush as much. I overall think that would have been a better way to go about it. But then again, I'm not the showrunner. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to leave likes and comments down below. Tell me what you guys think about the video and whether or not you agree or disagree with a lot of my points. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because we will have more Witcher Netflix content coming to the channel. Like I said, really enjoyed the first season despite this big flaw in my opinion, and I can't wait for season 2. And we definitely are going to get into some deep predictions for season 2 this upcoming year. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Once again, don't forget to do all that great stuff down below, and I will see you guys on the next one. ZFR out.